Hello and welcome back to another episode of Notts to Talk About, a Notts County podcast. And as you can see, we're joined by a very special guest today. Before we bring Scott in, I always start by asking how my co-host is doing. Casey, how are you doing, mate?
Very well, my friend. I'm very well, and I've been very, very excited to get this over the line. So, obviously, I'm buzzing.
Yeah, and I think this is the perfect time to bring Scott in. So, Scott, firstly, how are you, mate, and how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm all good. I'm all good.
No, yeah, I'm glad to hear it. And I guess the first question really is how do you feel like the season's going from your perspective as a player, and also for the wider for the team? You know, obviously a strong start. How do you think it's going so far?
Well, personally, a little bit frustrating just missing a bit of pre-season. Missed a few sessions here and there, which I'm someone I like to be out in the grass every day. Do you know what I mean? Getting some work in, but had a little stop-start, a few niggles, few injuries completely out with my control. But last couple of weeks got myself back fit, back involved, and it's been okay so far. As far as the team goes, it's been okay so far. Disappointing one last week at home, obviously getting beat off Port Vale. Decent draw at Chesterfield. I think the word is probably okay to start with.
Scott, you mentioned there about obviously pre-season being a bit staggered. How important is it? Because I know a lot of pros refer to it. You know, it's good to get a good pre-season on your belt. Obviously, you didn't manage to do that. How sort of essential is it for footballers to actually get that under their belt in terms of pre-season preparation and how they kick on into the start of the season as well?
I think you're spot on. Like a lot of footballers talk about, they need a good 6 weeks, 7 weeks in pre-season, and this is the first time that I've not managed to do that in my career so far. Because I'm touch wood, obviously good injury record, stuff like that. But yeah, it was a little bit frustrating. But I suppose we won't know until the latter end of the season how I'll really be just in terms of fitness wise. But over the next couple of weeks, I could do with just getting as much minutes as I possibly can, just to try to catch up on lost time, really.
In terms of Notts, Scott, does this feel like it's a place where you can see yourself staying a long time? Because obviously, so far in your career, I know you were at Celtic for a long time, but you had a lot of loan spells and then had quite a short period at Fleetwood. Do you think that Notts is a place where you can grow and develop and stay for quite a long time and really see yourself becoming, really established at the club?
Well, hopefully that's my plan anyway. Yeah, you touched on my loan spells there. I had a few when I was younger, and then obviously Fleetwood thing, it was going well, then things happen again. It probably out of your control in terms of managerial changes. But I'm really happy here. I said it when I first came in. I want to sort of find like a home in football, and over the last 6, 7, 8, 9 months, that I do feel comfortable. I feel as though I've done okay personally, and then last season disappointing as an overall, but started the season positively, and hopefully there's a good few more years to come from me.
Scott, it sounds like a general question, but how does Notts, rank in terms of the clubs you've been at so far? Because obviously, again, not to toot our own horn, but we are a pretty big club, especially for the league that we're in now. You've been at some big clubs yourself, like Celtic, etc. So, just want to get a feel of where you rank this in terms of places you've been so far.
Well, I've got to be honest. I was really blown away by the pressure here, the demand to sort of win every week. I know we didn't do that last season, but to win every week, fans, you guys expect performances of a high level, and that's something that, as going back to Celtic, like you grow up, you need to win, even at the youth team. So it feels like it suits me. Like it's the pressure you want every game. You do have that pressure to go and perform. That's not to take away from other clubs, obviously, but the expectation here is huge.
Yeah, how do you find that? Just to build on that a little bit more, obviously, I'm not saying it's quite as big pressure as Celtic, which obviously is a different sort of level of club completely. But in terms of how do you handle that pressure? Is it a positive thing? Because I know sometimes it can go both ways.
I think it's a positive thing anyway. I love feeding off you guys in the stands. Like you get a proper buzz walking out of Meadow Lane Saturday 3 o'clock. Do you know what I mean? Maybe didn't have that at my previous club. I love it, and long may it continue, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I guess I got to ask you what that is sort of like. When you step out in terms of out of the tunnel, walking out, you see all the stands full of Medellin. Sum up that sort of feeling for me, please.
It's really good. It's really good. Sort of as a player, sort of maybe the player I am, that I think it's good to feed off that. You know what I mean? Like I like to think that I've got a bit of energy stuff, and if I can get the crowd behind me and the team, I think it bodes well for everyone. And even I know we're talking about Medellin here, but some of the away support's been unbelievable. Obviously, we just had Chesterfield there. I think it was 1,200. Is that about right? 1,000, yeah. Travelling away from home, like back up the road in Scotland, you won't see many teams do that outside the Old Firm. So it's huge pressure, huge club, and as I said, hopefully it continues for a good few more years.
In terms of pressure, obviously last season there wasn't a lot of competition for places. The squad was quite thin. This year there's a lot of players in your position. How have you handled that? Has that been good to push you on, to make you step up your game a little bit, or do you enjoy that competition? Obviously, there's a lot of players going for sort of 3 or 4 midfield spots at the moment.
I think it's good. I think every day that you need to be at it. It's as simple as that. I've heard the manager talk and other players talk. We've probably got cover on every single position. So if you have a couple bad training sessions, you start thinking like, oh, another centre mid, he's training well. Your place might be at risk. But for me, it's really important. Keep you on your toes every day. You need to be at it. You need to be ready for whatever comes your way.
Scott, there was a lot of online, sort of speculation. I don't say speculation; it's more, excitement of the partnership that you could form with Matty Palmer. Obviously, we're starting to see it a little bit now. But how good do you reckon that can build into? Because obviously, again, as we've touched on already, you missed a lot of pre-season, so maybe you're not quite up to the speed you want to be yet. And to be fair, Matty's missed a lot of football himself, especially last season coming back into it. So I think it's fair to say both of you are, match fit maybe right now, but not, 100% to where you could be. How good do you reckon this partnership could be?
Yeah, that's probably fair to say. Obviously, Matty missing about 12 months last season, so he's probably only started maybe 4 or 5 games, correct me if I'm wrong. So it's going to take time for him to get him to feel himself again properly. And then you mentioned me there, having a little bit of time in the treatment bed, but we've only played together maybe 2 or 3 times. You're right in what you say. It's not clicked 100% yet, but I can only being positive. I can only see it being a positive partnership.
I want to go back to when you signed for Notts. Obviously, like you mentioned at Fleetwood, probably didn't quite work out. Obviously, Scott Brown left, and so things were a bit difficult for you. What was that like when you heard that Notts were interested? After a bit of a difficult period, did it feel like it was a kind of a fresh start for you, and you were grateful for that opportunity, even off the back of what was probably a tricky few months for you?
Exactly that. I went from playing every week at Fleetwood to potentially sometimes not even making match day squads, which is difficult to take, especially when your move starts off so positively. Yeah, when I heard Notts were interested, that was sort of real good match, real good club to sort of get back up and running in the door, playing games. And I know we talk about it a lot, and I see some of your guys' stuff that it was important to be a part of something that, in terms of style of play, one idea throughout the club, everyone aligned. That was really important for me to choose my next club. And since I've been in the door, all I've got is to say good things about the club.
Scott, when you joined Notts, it was, I think, as far as I'm aware, it was a late December signing, obviously, to play in January. And at that point, it was Luke Williams in charge. And by the time you, obviously, you played at Grimsby, that was your debut. That was under Jim O'Brien, that was interim management. And then, obviously, you moved into the Stuart Maynard era. So, what was that like for you? Because, again, when you hear the talks of, Notts being interested in you, probably looking at it and thinking, how am I going to fit into a Luke Williams style of team? And then you come into Notts, he departs, and then Stuart Maynard comes in. What was that sort of period like for you? Because I can imagine it was quite a, could I say, stressful one?
Yeah, you're probably right. That season, we're talking about last season, I think I had 6 managers, interim and not interim, so it's not ideal for a player, especially being a young player. But yeah, the conversation started when Luke was still in charge. So my first couple Zoom calls like this were with him. But it was important. I knew the club, like, if what happened ended up happening, it was going to be the manager that was going to play football the way I see how it should be played. So it wasn't too big an issue for me, if I'm honest. I just had to be a part of something, and yeah, as I've touched before, that in terms of that stuff, it couldn't have gone much better.
Yeah, you mentioned the style. Is that something that's really important to you? Because obviously, some of your loan spells, you played under some different managers. Obviously, David Artell at Crewe, I believe, who kind of plays a similar-ish way. And was that really important to you, sort of coming somewhere which had that style where you get on the ball, you get to show maybe a little bit more of what you're about rather than some of the other teams you play for in your career where it's kind of been a bit off the ball, more work against the ball, if that makes sense?
Yeah, a bit more direct. Yeah, you're spot on. I've had an array of different managers. I've had Steve Evans, who's a complete winner, different style. He does what he does. He gets results. And then you mentioned Dave Artell there. I had a really good relationship with Dave, and he probably doesn't know how good he was for me as well. But the style was a big thing, and there's probably only a handful of clubs in League One and League Two that sort of play all the way, if you like. So that was probably the number one thing that I wanted to concentrate on, going to a club where everyone's aligned and how they see football, because it's gonna bring out the best in me eventually, and I think ultimately it's the best way to try and win football matches, if you're asking me.
Scott, how has life been, playing on the Stuart Maynard? Because I think, it's probably fair to say his reign didn't get off to the greatest of starts. But as far as I'm concerned, this season we've looked like one of the better teams in this division. I don't want to say the best because I feel like that's a bit boasty. But we did have a poor running, to the end of last season. But over the summer, everything just seems to have changed. He's brought in his own staff. I know there was a few question marks over that online, but it seems to work brilliantly. How has life been playing on the Stuart Maynard? Because it seems as he's got better, so has everybody else.
Yeah, I think going back to last season, I think it was so difficult, and it's probably the last thing that fans and stuff want to hear. But we went far away last season, and there were small decisions in big games that just maybe went against us, and maybe us not taking our chances or whatever. But yeah, the summer's been important. Obviously, the gaffer, Matty, Craig, having a full pre-season, working every day with the boys, and then adding some good additions as well to the squad to bolster that. So it's been really good. I've got a really good relationship with the manager, and it's just something that long may continue in terms of us getting better each week, and hopefully that take us to the end of the season, see where we are.
How do they compare? Stu, Matty, and Craig, you mentioned there. How do they compare to some of the other coaches who we've kind of talked about a little bit? I know, obviously, at Celtic, you in and around the squad, and there's some good managers there at the time as well, like Andrews of this world. I'm not saying they're quite on that level, but how do they compare to some of the coaches you've worked with and worked under in your career?
In terms of personalities, like Ange, for example, Ange wouldn't talk to you, and he's quite open about it. Like he wants to keep away from building relationships off the park with players, and that's fair enough. That's his style. He's obviously been hugely successful. Gaffer, Matty, Craig here are not like that. They'll have a chat with you. We'll sit at lunch, have a chat, whatever. It's probably the way you prefer it, just so you're a bit more comfortable. You're not as sort of well standoffish. But the three coaches here, the Matty, Gaffer, Craig, they'll bring in something different to the party, which I think is massively important as well.
That's good to hear, Scott. That is good to hear. But in terms of them making them sort of relationships with their players as well, how sort of important do you think that has been? Not only to obviously to the players that were in the building as well, but obviously in terms of all the new signings you made through the summer as well. Because again, the expectation of the club's massive, and when you bring new players in, obviously you would have known this yourself because obviously you were fairly new last season as well. You want to kind of make that impression straight away, and when you have a head coach such as Stuart Maynard and all his backroom staff who are putting arms around you straight away, how sort of important do you think that has been in terms of making you guys bond with the new players, but also it all tick together on the pitch, which has seen us make a very good start to the season.
I think most successful teams throughout time in football, especially in England, they're all a tight knit group. They've all got good relationships with each other, and you can see that the manager here, that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to bring in not only good footballers but good personalities, good lads like that won't sort of isolate themselves if that makes sense. So I think it is really important that not only on the pitch but off it as well, that all the lads are good with each other, bounce off well each other, and yeah.
How have you found it with the new lads? Obviously, you've only been here kind of 6 to 8 months, or what, that's 10 months now, I suppose. 6 months in terms of actual season, but 10 months in total. But obviously, because of the amount of players that have been turned over the summer, you're one of the more established figures. So how did you find that welcoming the new lads into the group? Were you able to give them sort of advice and make them feel welcome, obviously, as new members of the team?
Yeah, I like to think of someone that I'm quite welcoming, I'm quite open. I had it obviously when I first came in. Jim took to me, and I listened. I listened a lot to what he had to say. I'm obviously not on that level yet, but I try my best with everyone in the squad, and hopefully they can see that. Especially a new lad coming in, you know what it's like. It's horrible for the first week or two, to be honest. People don't understand how hard it is, but everyone's gelled really well. And I think in some performances you can see that after the game when everyone's celebrating. So yeah, real good start from all the new lads, to be honest.
Scott, I just want to touch on Jim there, because obviously, again, a massively popular figure in the club. We obviously left in the summer, but obviously you've mentioned there, it sounds like he was very big welcoming character for yourself. Just how important was he, especially during your time here, but not also just your time here, but when things weren't going too great last season, of course, and how big of a miss has he been so far?
I think with Jim, it's just the standards every day, do you know what I mean? Like, at his age, he was here early, first in the gym, do you know what I mean? Looking after himself, making sure he's ready, and that's something as a young pro, if he's doing that, why am I not doing that? But in terms of round training, round games, he was sort of the voice that you would hear. And going into playing with him, I had a few games when it was me and him sitting in midfield together. It was great. You wouldn't really need to talk to him because he'd talk you through the game. Rob will be here, be there. He was big on my shoulder position when I first came in. Obviously playing from a different style, my shoulders were dead closed, not stuff like that. So it's something I try and take wee things, as you do off all the older players. But watching Jim, especially being a centre mid, has really helped me, if I'm honest with you.
More generally, how have you found life in Nottingham? Just to step away from football a little bit, how have you found life kind of in the city? Obviously, like I say, 10 months or so now, you've been part of the football club. How have you found adapting to life in and around Nottingham?
Been good. It's been good. It's the first time I've lived in a city. Everywhere else I've sort of been away from it a little bit. Yeah, so last January, I was down myself. I was living myself. Had a little apartment close by. This summer, my girlfriend's moved down with me, so that's made probably stuff away from football a lot easier. In terms of what she would do for me, but I've enjoyed it. I like the city. You bump into you guys wherever you go for a coffee, and it's always dead positive. It's always sort of, how was Saturday? Looking forward to this Saturday and all that. I've enjoyed it, loved it so far.
What have you made of, obviously you spoke there about, your fan interactions. What have you made of, how the fans have taken to you? But more importantly, again, we're speaking about outside of football at the moment. So all these fan interactions you may have had with, in coffee shops, etc. How welcoming do you feel the fans were to you?
It's something that coming from Scotland, you probably didn't expect how much of you guys there are. Do you know what I mean? It was a pleasant surprise. Like, you get it quite a lot. You don't get away from it. Wherever you go, there's always generally one or two talking to you, stop and ask whatever it is, asking for a photo, just a quick chat. But it's been good. It does make you realise that, well, this is a proper football club.
Again, my next question is away from football. But what do you do, what away from football? What do you do to relax? Is it more football? Is it you watching football all the time, or is it other stuff? Do you like to take yourself away? And some people, some footballers are all in on football, but others are want to do stuff away from football. So what kind of where do you sit in that?
I watch a lot of Celtic. Obviously, comes through there. I've got a couple mates I would like to watch there. I'm a golfer as well. Like my golf. And the PlayStation as well, to be honest. That's how I'll take my mind off. If I need to take my mind off football for whatever reason, that's how I'll sort of get away and escape.
Yeah, how is the golf, Scott? Because I do see that quite a bit. You, Kedwin, and especially you and Kedwin, but I know a lot of you have played in that sort of sport as well. So how is the golf? And I guess I'll ask you who is the best golfer in the squad?
I'll be honest right now, big man. This is the worst that I've ever been at golf. As we sit here, handicap's up to 7 right now. Can't believe it, to be honest. But the best in the squad right now is Matthew Platt. I think he's off scratch. He's best I've seen. He's the best I've seen.
Is he the best footballer you've seen in general, or just the best at knots?
Say that again, sorry, mate.
Is he the best footballing golfer you've seen, or is he just the best golfer at knots, or is he the best you've seen?
He's the best footballing golfer that I've seen. That's what I was meant by that. Sorry, yeah. Throughout the few clubs I've been at, he's the best, which hurts me because everywhere else I've been the best. But handicap shot up recently, which is not good. It's not good.
Is that a good thing for the team camaraderie, though, for the team spirit? Like, you all have something that you can do together outside of football to kind of build those friendships, so you're not just work colleagues, you're friends as well.
Yeah. We've probably got about 6, 7, 8 golfers in there, which is good. Like, probably not so much now because we're getting in the winter months after training. It'll be dark and wet, but especially when the weather's all right, it's good to, as you were saying before, take your mind off football. If you're after training, you can get a little 9 holes in, have a bit of banter with the boys. It's good crack, yeah.
It's good to hear, man. It's good to hear. Now, let me just dive straight back into the football stuff just quickly, Scott. Again, good start to the season, of course, but I mean, you also scored your first goal for the club this season as well, Carlisle away, and I had to ask you about that, as I can see by the smile on your face. You're quite happy with that one as well, but great goal. Don't get me wrong, great goal. But how important was that for you to open your account, not just for the season, but for Notts as well? Because I know as a midfielder, you do want to contribute with the goals as well. Though goals is probably not something that people look at you for. But again, if you can add to him, it helps the team out massively and helps us out on that night as well. Give us a nice, comfortable 2-0 lead. I say comfortable, people say 2-0 can be a dangerous scoreline. I never once felt threatened that we were going to concede in that game personally. But yeah, how important was it for you to get that first goal and a good goal as well?
It was really important, to be honest. To be honest, mate, as you can tell by the celebration, I don't score enough. More relief than anything. It's been weird. I've always grown up talking about 18s, 19s reserve football. I've always scored goals, so I'm maybe a bit naive myself when I first came into men's football. I was thinking, I'll score double figures easy, stuff like that, but it's obviously not been the case. Throughout this season, it's got to be something that I do more. Chip in with a few goals here and there, because it helped the team, as you say, massively. We obviously know we've got the attacking qualities frightening, to be honest. So I don't think we'll be that short on the goals front this season, but if I can do my bit for the team and help getting more points on the board, then I'm absolutely buzzing, to be honest.
Another game I wanted to talk to you about was Fleetwood at home. Obviously, came off the bench in that one, and I know that we didn't win the game, but it kind of felt a little bit like win with the last minute goal. Was that sweet to get one over on your old side? Kind of, that last minute winner. Did that taste a little bit sweeter because it's your old team?
Yeah, maybe. I think if anyone watched that game, I know you're big on your stats, but we had 81% possession. Our XG was, I can't remember, but it should have been 3 points right enough. So yeah, it was good to score in the last minute, as it is against any team, to be honest. But I think that the way that we played on that day, that there was only really going to be, should have only been one winner.
Scott, how competitive do you think League Two is this season? I ask you this because a lot of people online for the summer will say, some of the big spenders are gone. Your Wrexham, your Stockport, so obviously Mansfield unfortunately went as well. But you have your teams such as, Notts County now, your Gillinghams, your MK Dons, your Fleetwoods, all your relegated teams, although some of them are lower down in the table where there's probably some expected, don't mean, we're 11 games in, doesn't mean they can't rise up it. How do you see the competitiveness of the league this season? Can I ask you as well, what has, the management team said about it as well? Because again, the expectation of the club, as you may be aware, everyone is sort of, not even just the fans, outside the club as well, are pointing at Notts as, some of the promotion favourites. But I just want to get your take as a player for Notts County, inside the changing rooms, etc. What is the sort of message that you get put across to you about the competitiveness of League Two this season?
For me, I think the top 10, 12, it's going to be really, really tight this season. It's probably starting to take a bit more shape when you get to that 10, 15 game mark. But in terms of us, I think it's got to be promotion. Whatever, if you offer anyone at the start of the season promotion, I think you take it in whatever way. To be honest, obviously, I wasn't here, but that season at Wembley, that's how you probably would choose to go up. I'd much rather get it automatically, if I'm honest. But yeah, going on to our ultimate goal this season is to get promotion, and I'm sure that won't surprise anyone.
Is there genuine belief within the squad and from the management team as well that promotion can happen this season?
Yeah, 100%. In that changing room there, and talking with the boys, there, I think we think we've got the best players in the team, best players in the league. Sorry. It's just if we can put little runs together throughout the season, that would take us to where ultimately we're going to deserve to be come May.
How far away do you think we are from those runs you just referred to there, Scott? Because I mean, we've had one so far. Obviously, again, as you mentioned a bit at the start of the, as we started recording, sorry, that we've had a few, home defeats currently. But if anyone can go unbeaten in a league season, then you are going to win the league. And obviously, we haven't done that. No one is going to do it in the league now. But how important do you think it is to continue building runs like we did at the start of the season? Not only how far away do you think we are? Because I don't think we're the finished product right now, but we're not going to be in 10, 11 games. So how far away do you think that is?
I think we're close. I think we're very close without giving too much away. It's something huge that the manager keeps on going on about. Is just little details and matches so far. I think we've been beat at home 1-0 against Gillingham and Port Vale. Margins are very small in this league especially, but as a unit, as a whole, I do think we're very close to sort of going on little runs that will put us up further the table.
Finally, from me, Casey might have some more questions, but in terms of your personal goals, you mentioned obviously you thought it might be easy when you came into senior games to get double figures for goals, and I'm not saying that you're going to set that for a goal for yourself this season, but have you got a goal personally for goals, assists, and have you got any other kind of goals you've set yourself?
Not really, to be honest. It's not something that I've been big on so far in my career. I've tried it at different points, that maybe setting goal targets, but if you don't reach them, then you'll be trying anything to get them. So I've not set a goal or assist target this season, just as many as I possibly can. The main thing for me has been fit and available for the manager, for the team. And I think ultimately if you're fit and available, it gives you the best chance to do what you want in the season.
100%. And I'll ask you one final question, Scott, if you don't mind. And that might, well, to be fair, it's not really a question. It's just like, do you have any sort of message to, the supporters of any rally cry, not rally cry, of course, but, sort of message that, that you want to put across, in terms of between now and the end of the season, what could be achieved?
That's a really good question. What did I say with that one?
Whatever you want, Scott.
A rally cry?
No, not necessarily.
What does that mean?
Sort of like, any sort of, okay, I'll rephrase it to any message, you have for all the supporters of the football club, any message you want to put across.
Stick with us, maybe. Stick with us. It'll be a long season. There'll be ups and downs. If we all stick together, hopefully we're only going to go one way. So that would be my message. Step together.
Well, Scott, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure having you on, and yeah, obviously, good luck for the rest of the season to you and the lads. And in case you got any final words, mate.
No, just thank you for having me, guys.
Massive appreciated, Scott. And again, it has been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Don't get me wrong, and I hope it goes down very well, which I'm sure it will be. And we wrap it up here by saying, thank you for all the support and come on, you pies. But I would love it if you could, give us the final come on, you pies of the episode. So if you will,
Go on then, come on, you pies.